G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Kenty, news out of Papua New Guinea today with the power brokers up there announcing the new board.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. It's sort of not massive news was as far as the rugby league landscape goes. Obviously, we all know that Papua New Guinea are going to come into the competition in 2028. The NRL went up there today, Peter Volandis and his crew, and essentially it was about they had a look around various places around Port Moresby. I don't know if they came up with it today, but part of the intention of today was to go and pick a site for the Centre of Excellence that's going to be built. And then a little bit of frosting on top was the announcement of the new Papua New Guinea board headed by Ray Dibb, the chairman, who's the old Canterbury chairman. So it's just an indication that things are moving forward.
Marcus Bai also on the board, former Storm legend.
Yeah, and look, a national hero in Papua New Guinea. As we know, Papua New Guinea, for those who don't know, is the only country in the world where its national sport is rugby league. And so they are extremely passionate about the sport up there. And Marcus Bai is just he's their daily messenger. They're Clive Churchill. He's the guy that has really changed the game up there in many ways with what he did with Melbourne Storm. So he's on the board, which I think is a great appointment. And look, to be fair, I don't know really many of the others on the board. Which always gives me a little bit of concern. But that said, let's just wait and see how they go.
Well, it was interesting over the weekend. There was a bit of talk about how the Papua New Guinea team would bring a lot more money to the new agreement for television. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, there's no doubt that that's part of it. They find a new television market, and you can guarantee that when the Papua New Guinean team, they don't have their nickname yet. There's a little bit of a push for Angels, as in the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels from World War II.
Yeah. I thought the Headhunters would be the obvious one.
I don't know if that'll get through the censors, that one. But no, look, I don't even know if Angels get through. I quite like Angels, though. It's an unusual one, but there are, there's a Major League Baseball team called the Angels.
And a football team, ladies football team.
Yeah, so look, it's an interesting one, and we'll wait and see.
My old man used to fly to Papua New Guinea for work a lot of time, and they used to have the Mudmen who used to have the big...
Oh, really?
I don't know if that'll go. Mate, no news on the coach out of there yet?
No, that's the interesting thing I thought out of it. No news on the coach, and there's not been much said about who the new coach will be. Obviously, they could not do anything or move in that area until the board was appointed, therefore can give approval on the coach. The obvious one I thought, Warren, was whether they would look at Wayne Bennett. And I've made a few calls around the game just to see what the appetite was for Bennett. Apparently the NRL have approached him.
Wow.
And he's knocked them back. Now,
wow.
Yeah, and I think the indication is that this is Bennett's last coaching gig, which is pretty big.
South.
Yeah, it's South. So that's pretty big news in itself. I don't know how long Bennett will stay there, but the fact that he's knocked this back, he's been seen in this role in recent years where he's the troubleshooting coach.
Just to fix it.
Yeah, comes in, helps, gets clubs going right again, fixes their salary cap, fixes their roster up, more importantly. And then, he, as we did with the Dolphins, he set them up magnificently. So he was the obvious one. He's knocked them back. He's told the NRL that this is his last coaching gig. Well, this will be his last coaching gig. How long at South, I don't know. He has indicated that he's prepared to help out Papua New Guinea, I believe, and that if they, as some sort of consultancy role.
Okay.
So I think it's all eyes on this, and let's just see what happens.
That's big news. Could be the last club for the Supercoach.
Well, ironically, it's bigger news than probably what's happening in Papua New Guinea today.
Okay.
The fact that Bennett has sort of indicated to the NRL that he won't be going any further. So. Look, he's 80. How old is he now? He's 75 right now. He'll be 76, 77 when he retires, or when he finishes this contract at South.
One thing we do know, there'll be plenty of offers, even when he does finish.
They will. And look, more importantly, I think there'll be a lot of, we spoke about this yesterday, the importance of general managers and people who can come into your club and get things right. And that's one thing Bennett's always been very good at. Bennett's eye for talent is second to none. He can see a kid at 19 and he's got a pretty good record of saying this kid will make it, this kid won't. And that's not a pure science. That's not an exact science in the NRL. A lot of guys get that wrong, but Wayne Bennett gets that right more often than most. So his services would be a big help up there in Papua New Guinea as they get established.
So who do Papua New Guinea look to to coach, do you think?
Oh, look, it's the old line, the usual suspects. You look at Jason Demetrio, currently coaches the national team. Obviously, he's using that, one, to keep his hand in at coaching, but two, to sort of have the, I suppose, inside running when the job becomes available. He is very keen for it. Yep. They'll also then, I think, look at who missed out at the over at the Perth Bears. So Sam Burgess missed out. They'll probably look at him, give him a call. And Brad Arthur missed out. They'll probably have a discussion with him. I think they'll look at Willie Peters. Willie Peters is doing a really, really good job with Hull Kingston Rovers over there in the English Super League. They were a team, just a battling team, and he's gone away and he's done what we just spoke about. He's fixed the roster up. He's got the playing personnel right, and through that he got him and won the Challenge Cup the other day. So he's done a really good job there.
What about some assistants?
Well, look again. I think it'll be down to about 3 assistants. We'll be looking at essentially. You'll be looking at Josh Hannay, who's working at Cronulla, who's indicated he won't go to another club, won't leave Cronulla until he, unless it's for a head coaching role. Okay. So Josh Hannay will be one. I think you're probably then going to be looking at
Hornby,
Ben Hornby and Dean Young are the other two. Yeah, Bennett, and if he is consulting to the Papua New Guinea team, he has a big rap on both those.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so he has a big rap on both of those. So look. Too early now to say which one of those guys will emerge. Obviously,
Hornby's under him now
at South Sydney. And Dean Young has been under him at various other clubs. So the big thing there is, I think Demetrio has the inside running, and it's up to everybody else to run him down.
Okay, so then once they've got the coach, then they'll start going after players. What do you think? Players Association, Clinton Newton came out this week and said that there should be concessions for Papua New Guinea and for Perth. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Why is that? Because, look, the argument against that is it's a fair competition, but when every club has the same money to spend in the salary cap. But it's not a fair competition in other respects because they're starting from scratch. They've got no existing player roster that they can build on or navigate. They need to entice players out of their clubs right now. Now, I think what they should be doing not only is giving concessions in as far as salary cap, which the AFL do, and you don't hear a peep out of the AFL about it, very rarely anyway. But they do that to ensure that their expansion franchises succeed. And for the greater good of the NRL, that's what's more important, that they succeed. It would be a disaster for the NRL, for both Perth, Papua New Guinea to come into the competition, and within 4 or 5 years, they've been unable to attract quality players. They're sitting at last and second last on the ladder, and they are struggling for relevance. And that would be a disaster. The NRL, I think, has got to look bigger picture, and they've got to say, okay, you do get salary cap concessions, at least for the first however many years. Put a cap on it. They can't have it forever. The other thing I think they should be allowed to do is actually start approaching players now. I think clubs should be allowed to insulate, for example, 4 or 5 players within their club, nominate who those players are, and then say to everybody else, everybody else is there to be approached, and forget this November 1 deadline. They are there to be approached now by these expansion clubs, because that way you're allowed to plan ahead and you're allowed to start to get moving. The fact that they won't be able to talk to some of these players until a year before they come into the competition is ridiculous. It's really it's absurd.
Well, Perth start training November 1 next year.
Yeah, they do.
And they don't have a single player.
And at the moment, they can't sign some players.
No.
They can't even approach some players and talk to them.
Yeah.
Back when the NRL expanded to 20 teams in 1995, they were allowed to go out and approach players early. And I remember, for example, Sean Hoppy was playing at Canberra. Was a young superstar coming through. The Warriors signed him to years out. I think they signed him in about 92 when they first got announced. They announced that it leaked that they'd signed him for their first season in 1995, and Canberra, which happened back then, they got upset about it and sacked him. So John Money was the Warriors coach at the time. He rang Peter Louis, who was the North Sydney coach. He said, look, can you warehouse him for a couple of years? Can you take him for a few years, play him on the wing? Yeah. And then in 1995, he's going to come over and play for us. And Peter Louis said, absolutely, won't be a problem. And that's what they did, okay? And that was a really grown-up approach to it all. And I think the game needs to do that again. I think they need to be able to say to players, listen, you can approach the clubs, approach these players, players approach the clubs, and they can start to put some names on their list.
Particularly with no draft. You know, like, I don't know of another competition in the world, and there probably will be, and one of the viewers will let us know, but I don't know another competition with a salary cap plus no draft. Yeah. I can't think of another competition. No. So you can't build via paying overs because of the salary cap, and you can't build through the draft, so you're up against it.
That's it. And look, Warren, those who've been around the game long enough know a draft and a salary cap are designed to work in tandem. Mm-hmm. And Rugby League actually initially wanted to do that when they brought the salary cap and draft in 1990, I think it was. But obviously, we all know famously Terry Hill challenged it. It didn't get through court, and the NRL has walked away from that. And the Players Association have never said that they will entertain a draft in any time future.
You're obviously around back then. Just run me through that quickly. That time.
Well, the NRL clubs were sending each other broke. They were in an arms race to sign players, and so they're sending each other broke. Newtown hit the wall. Western Suburbs nearly went broke. Clubs were, and there were several other clubs who were on lifelines. So the NRL brought in a draft and initially a salary cap, but they knew that salary cap doesn't work without a draft. So they brought in a salary cap and then a draft to basically spread talent around and to stop clubs sending each other broke. But Terry Hill got drafted by Eastern Suburbs at the time when he wanted to go and play at West under Warren Ryan. And because he went to a club he didn't want to go to, and in hindsight, the NRL probably New South Wales League back then should have handled it better. But because he was drafted by the Roosters, he was funded to take it to court. They took it to court, and they found it was illegal to impose a restraint of trade. And out of that, the draft fell over. Now the salary cap stayed in place, but we all know the problems the salary cap poses for sub clubs, particularly those on the bottom of the ladder, who struggle to get off because they don't get access to. They've got to pay an inflated rate to attract players to their club, which then destroys their salary cap.
If you're Papua New Guinea now and you're part of the committee up there, what kind of players are you going after? Young players, obviously.
You're going after spine players,
right?
Yeah. So you're going after spine. That's where they'll have 1,000 players up there, big, strong, athletic, fit, run all day, and they'll be as hard as teak. What they'll need is playmakers, guys who can run a team, get you around the park,
kick the corners,
all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
That stuff that who are fully schooled on the science of the game. And so they'll have to go after spine players. They'll need some experience at some point somewhere in there, whether there's a player who at that point will be coming off contract. Look, I haven't been through the ages of players, but they'll need an experienced.
Alex Johnson's one, potentially. It's a few years off.
Yeah, he's on the wing though. So, I don't know if he'll go there. Like, they have spoken to him about him going there, given he has played for the Papua New Guinea national team. But look, my priority from them, I'm finding a player right now who's a halfback who's probably about 27. So by the time you come into the comp, he's going to be 29, 30.
Yeah.
He's going to be experienced to get you around. And then you're going to look for a young half 5'8", potentially a 5'8" who can move into the halfback position after 3 or 4 years, who will then you'll trust to run your team, and then obviously you want your dummy half and your fullback.
Mate, did you? Let's move on. Let's go on to Manly. Did you see the comments about Tommy Turbo?
What he said?
Shocked. Yeah, he was shocked to be.
Yeah, he was shocked. It's an interesting one. I really. Yeah, I get him what he said, and he was shocked. And part of that. Yeah, part of old school coaching, I think, is if you're Anthony Seibold, you bring him in and you talk to him about how the team's going, what the team needs, how he's going, what he needs, and you hope by the end of the conversation, you've almost
you've sold him.
Well, you almost want him to say, "Hey, you know what? I've got an idea. How about you move me to centre?" You know what I mean? You want to if you can convince him it's his idea, then it's a win-win for you. But I find it fascinating that Seabold has done this from the point of view of this. Tom Trbojevic is a very influential player at a club which we're already hearing for some time now. There's been internal rumblings about the playing group.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So the risk, and I actually think, I'm actually quite impressed by what Seabold's doing here. He's trying to coach his way out of his problems. There's no doubt Manly aren't going well. So what he's trying to do is he realises, keep doing what we're doing, nothing's going to change. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to make the team as best as he can. And many people agree that with Tom moving to centre, Lei Hopewadi going to fullback, it does already look slightly better, even though you lose a little bit about Tom playing fullback. But we all know that the problems he's had there.
He's only played 5 of 160 NRL games at centre. I mean, he's played Origin at centre.
Because he is a pure fullback. That's what he is. But he's played Origin at centre, and he's been great in Origin at centre. And you probably let him have that licence to roam at Manly like he did in Origin, where he was so effective. But I like the fact that Seabold has said this is probably the best thing for the team right now, and damn the consequences. I'm going to make the changes, and I'm going to run the risk that I'm in a club right now where there is these little whispers going around of player dissatisfaction. Now, the fact he's gone ahead and done that anyway, and he's trying to coach his way out of where they're at, I think that's a pretty bold move from a coach. And I think that's a really good sign from your coach. He hasn't given up. A lot of coaches, when the death rattle starts at clubs, and that's the whispering from the players, once that starts, they do everything in their power to placate the players, keep them happy, and try to quieten that noise. And inevitably, it heightens the noise because players tend to lose more respect for the coach because they can see what he's doing. So for Seabold to do this, I think it's a really strong sign. And I actually I think Manly out of this will come out a better team. I really do. I think they're going to be a side that's going to come out of it more balanced, and they will be seeing a coach who's doing everything he can to try and improve the performance and not just try and keep everybody happy. And there's a difference there. Well,
let's hope so, because they've been poor the last few weeks, and it'll be nice to see them back. Somebody else who's flexing a bit of muscle is Madge up there in Brisbane, with reports of Selwyn Cobbo is being, disrespected in some terms, or underpaid at $300,000 a year.
Gordy's called him, said he's been disrespected. Gordon Tallis said Selwyn Cobbo's been disrespected with a $300,000 offer, given he's on around about 650 at the moment.
Do you think it's an insult, or do you think it's just
no? Well, it's not an insult. Look, it's just it's the modern way. Okay, look.
Salary cap management.
So salary cap management. And what happens is Maguire's got so much money he can spend and he's got to put it in a certain place. Now, Maguire's idea of where you allocate the money, and I say this in terms generally of position, might be different from the previous coach and the coach who put him on, Selwyn Cobbo, on this contract. And Maguire's never been a coach who's invested heavily in wingers. Okay, we understand their position in the game and their need within teams. Okay, but he's never invested heavily. He's put his money into his forwards, his middles, and his spine. That's generally where the money goes. Okay, now there's criticism because it looks like Ben Hunt is just about to sign on for a little bit longer, or if he hasn't already.
Reynolds has just re-signed.
Has just re-signed, so he is putting that money there. Although Reynolds did take a pay cut himself. Okay, so I don't think it's disrespectful. I look, that's an old-fashioned idea. I think from the fact that players had their money and to offer a player significantly less, they saw that as disrespectful. But the fact is, he's just not what the new coach values in a team. I get that. Now, so he's made him an offer that he thought was fair given what he's after, and he's knocked it back. Now, the news out today is that the Cowboys are coming in strong, trying to get him this week, trying to get him to play for them this week. So Cowboys, which will be the end of Cobbo's career at the Broncos. Now, as we sit here talking now, that's a developing story, and where that ends up, it might take 1 or 2 days, but certainly it appears that Cobbo's time at the Broncos is just about done. That said, there's already been pushback from the Broncos today that no, they want him for the rest of the year. Now,
because there's also news the Dragons want him this year.
Yeah,
and they want to pay 18 months as well.
And they've had a chat to him as well, and they're looking at trying to get him. Now, this all has to happen within this week. What is it today? The 24th. So next Monday's June 30, which is the last day a player can officially change clubs for this season. So it has to be done very quickly. How it all ends up, I don't know. Like I said, as we speak, the clubs are all talking to each other. They're trying to work out some sort of deal. The Broncos aren't keen to let him go for nothing. The Cowboys, they've had some recent injuries in their outside backs, so they desperately need him. Obviously, Saints have got a few problems out there as well, so they're looking for him. So there's a few things that need to happen. But I think it'd be fair to say that it'd be long odds that he'd be at the Broncos in a fortnight by the sounds of it.
Broncos in a fortnight.
Long odds that he won't.
Oh, he
will
won't be. Okay, then he'll be gone.
I think he'll be gone. Look, the Cowboys have come in pretty strong today, so they're trying to get him in the team this week. So
yeah, right.
It's going to be interesting if he doesn't get named in the team this afternoon.
Dragons have a few spots there with a couple of players leaving, but where's that leave Sloan, do you think?
Well, the word is they've already tapped Sloan, and there's been suggestions he go to the English Super League. He would
kill it over there.
Yeah, sensation over there.
Probably a bit young to go over there, though.
Well, look, I think he goes over there and he can play over there for another 10 years minimum. It stays in Australia unless he fixes up his defensive problems, which is what's been the problem at the Dragons. Let's be not naive about this. What the Dragons have identified are the deficiencies in his game. Other clubs have as well. So there's not going to be a lot of money for him around the NRL because he's a player who is one of the most balanced, beautiful ball runners you've ever seen, but he's a liability in defence. And so the NRL, you don't like to carry that. In the English Super League, they do carry those players, and those players are often sensational. Martin Afai couldn't tackle to save himself, but is a bona fide legend over there. Now, that's obviously a slightly different game when he was playing back then. But that's the attitude over there. They are very much an attack-centric competition, and Sloan would be a sensation at fullback over there.
Definitely. I want to ask you, did you think it was weird, and I know he's a Brisbane boy, but did you think it was weird that the Broncos signed Grant Anderson from Melbourne last year? It just seems a bit odd.
Oh, I think he just sort of brings that Melbourne
great
attitude.
Player,
he's a good player.
They've got a lot of wingers already.
Yeah, but he brings. I think he was probably signed with the intention that they were probably going to let Cobbo go.
Yeah.
I think that was probably not revealed at the time.
So they knew that 12 months ago.
I think they probably thought that 12 months ago, and it's all just starting to pan out now. But look, Grant Anderson just brings that Melbourne attitude, which I think Michael Maguire is looking at the sort of mimic what's going on down there and to get a little bit of steel inside the Broncos.
Well, the interesting thing in the Broncos this weekend, they've kind of got their Madge's great Madge made in heaven, I guess you could probably call it, with, they've got Walsh at fullback, Marm at 6, Reynolds at 7, and Hunt looks like coming back into the team at 9. So that's your perfect spine for them.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how they go, won't it? So, look, I think the Broncos' problem has not been scoring points. It's been defending them. So, they'll help out in some regard, but there's other problems there still at the Broncos.
Kenny, I want to do something different to wrap up today. I want to do a mid-season grade.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 6 teams today. We'll do the other 6 tomorrow and then the 5 after that. We'll start at the bottom. I want you to give them a grade out of 10, and then I want you to tell me what they need to do, just one thing they need to do to be in contention come semi-final time. Okay?
Okay, let's see how we go.
So let's start at the bottom. Let's start with the Titans.
They're a hard one. Look, the Titans have got quite the noise around what's happening at the club at the moment. There's all this speculation about Des retiring, whether he'll get sacked if he doesn't make the 8, which I think's bringing in ideas around what's happening at the club that are not beneficial. Okay, for a grade, clearly they're down the bottom. They're sitting at a 3 or 4. They haven't improved as much as I'd hoped.
What do they need to do?
Well, there are.
Stop the noise.
They've got to stop the noise.
Okay.
They've got to stop the noise. Titans are, what they say, old dog for a hard road.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have Des Hasler or an old hard-head coach coaching them.
Mm.
It's not enough to sit there and speculate about his future. Just give him control. Say he's there for the midterm future at the very least.
Mm. And they need to win.
On.
If they win, they stop the noise. The Rabbits?
Rabbits, they've look. I think the Rabbits are 6 or 7 out of 10, given the fact that they've just been busted by injuries. They've just been busted by injuries. There's nothing you can really get into the Rabbitohs about because they're struggling to put on an NRL standard team every week. Like there are a couple of players every week that you sit there and think, oh, geez, they're a bit skinny there. Yeah, and they're doing their best to try and hide that. But teams are finding them. And but the one thing about the Rabbitohs is they're competing every week. They haven't lost that desire to compete.
Okay, Parramatta.
Parramatta, look, they're on the improve. They're a much better team when Mitch Moses is running the team, and I think they've just got to sit there and just continue trusting in Jason Rolls' coaching. He's trying to bring in systems that are unfamiliar to them. He's trying to change a few things that there's a little bit of teething problems on it, but when they get it right, they look good.
What do you give them out of 10?
6.
Okay. Tigers,
they've got to toughen up defensively. They're good with the ball, but they have periods where they are mentally weak in defence, and they will have a really soft tackle attempt that will cost them a try, and out of that they lose a game or they'll lose momentum, and then the game will go right away from them. So they've just got to. I think they just need to do far more training in defence. Their defence is still pretty poor, to be honest. They look much better in attack, but defensively they're not there.
What do we give them out of 10?
6.
Okay. Knights,
they're
this is unbelievable. How do you?
I've got no idea about the Knights. Yeah, they are. Look, I don't know.
Yeah.
They came into the season and could not score to save themselves. Now they seem to have fixed that in the past month. They've had some really good halves. They've had one good game.
Jackson Hastings looks like he's back.
Well, let's not get carried away yet.
Yeah.
But
back in the team. Sorry.
But look, I just think they're a hard one to pick. But they are better with when Kalen. They are so reliant on Kalen Ponga. I think that's a problem because you double team Kalen, which teams do. I know it's a basketball team, but in the NRL teams do double team him, and that just takes away a lot of his power. So he needs options around him. So they just need more variety there. But they're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team. The Knights, I don't know what to make of them.
You don't know what to give them?
Oh, I think that you give them a 5.
Somewhere between 2 and 6, depending on the day.
Depending on the day, yeah.
Last one for today, the Cowboys.
Cowboys, again, they're just... I think the Cowboys have got to start rolling the sleeves up a little bit more. And it sounds simple, and you should be probably a little bit more scientific, I suppose, but they look like they are... Yeah, they remind me of the old North Sydney team. Happy to play well for 70 minutes, but lose in the last 10.
Yeah, okay. Not the one you played.
Yeah. That era.
Same era.
They came along. But that was the history of the Bears. Yeah, and the mentality within the club was, if you did play well for 70 minutes and you took, say, the Broncos or the Raiders, and you led 14-12 after 70 minutes, but ended up getting beat 26-14, they'd still pat you on the back and say, great job, you nearly got them.
Almost,
for 70 minutes, you And the Cowboys, look, they're not quite that. They're not losing their games that way, but they're competing hard enough to sort of be there, but they're not competing hard enough to win. And it's only a small difference, but it's all the difference. And I think they just, as I said, they need to go and they need a real circuit breaker, something to shake them up a bit, and to come out and really just find that competitive desire again, because they're content losing games the way they're playing.
Selwyn Cobbo, maybe.
Selwyn Cobbo, look,
he'll be the difference maker.
He could bring some spark. We'll see.
Okay, so what do you give him?
I'll give him probably a 4 or 5 at the moment.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. They've been disappointing for me. So. Okay. Maybe things might change though. All
right, well, that's it for us today. We'll go through the other teams tomorrow and Thursday. See you later. Have a good night. Cheers.